Europe is gripped by a terrible crisis, leading Spain to implement methods to combat resource shortages. The "there won't be enough for everyone" plan comes into effect, denying the lives of pregnant women and children, forcing some of the population to leave the country. However, doing this legally is not easy, and people resort to illegal means to save their lives. Mia and Nico, a married couple, arrive at a point for illegal human trafficking to other countries. The man who meets them urges the couple to hurry, as police officers are everywhere, and helicopters are monitoring the situation from above. At the final point, it becomes clear that an additional payment is required for their rescue. Nico asks his wife to give up the last thing she has left, her wedding ring, and the woman, with tears in her eyes, hands over the jewelry. Finally, the family reaches a container that will be transported by truck to the port, where it will be loaded onto a ship and sent to Ireland. And here it becomes clear that Mia is pregnant. Several other families with young children are hiding in the container with them, but people do not speak to each other, thinking only of their salvation. Nico treats his wife to a rare treat, chocolate, which he asks her to save for celebrating their rescue. After all, Ireland is a country that will never bend under Europe, so they will surely find protection there. In the morning, the truck set off on its journey, and Nico asks about Noah's well-being. He has already come up with a name for their daughter, although Mia would prefer to have a son. The woman is worried. The baby is not moving, but Nico reassures her. After they endured the loss of their daughter, who was taken by the military, everything will be fine. At that moment, the truck is stopped and a crowd enters. The smugglers order the newcomers to go back, and under the threat of weapons, they drive everyone away, without distinguishing between those who arrived first and those who arrived later. Nico gets caught in the wave and is pushed out, ignoring Mia's protests and screams. The second group is loaded into a green truck that follows behind. The couple communicates by phone, and the husband promises that he will get out at the first stop and be with her again. The truck drives through the streets where people are protesting against the seizure of children and government tyranny. The truck's body is riddled with bullet holes, and Mia witnesses all these horrors and cries in helplessness. Soon, the truck is stopped by the military. Their commander forces the driver to open the truck, suspecting that the fugitives are hiding behind a false wall. He orders them to come out, or his men will shoot everyone right through the wall. Mia manages to climb onto a high wooden crate in the middle of the cargo hold when one of the girls opens the door and the military begin to fire. Mia, lying on the crate, clenches her mouth to keep from screaming in terror as her fellow travelers are killed by bullets. After finishing, the soldiers throw out the bodies, clean up the blood, and release the truck. Mia tries to contact Nico to warn him about the deadly inspections, but unfortunately, he is unavailable. Soon, Mia's container is loaded onto a ship, and she sets off on her journey, not knowing when she will reunite with her husband and whether he will be able to escape from Spain alive at all. The woman falls asleep sitting by the wall and wakes up from violent jolts. The ship has entered a storm, and large metal containers begin falling into the ocean. Mia hears the voices of sailors and tries to get their attention by shouting, but they, preoccupied with their own survival, pay no heed to her pleas. After one particularly strong jolt, Mia hits her head and loses consciousness. The woman regains consciousness in complete silence. There is nothing to be heard outside. It seems the storm has ended. She peers through a bullet hole and realizes with horror that her container has fallen into the ocean, and now it is drifting aimlessly on the waves. Mia tries to contact Nico, but her phone is soaked and no longer works. Then she remembers a bag left behind by one of her fellow travelers, and inside it, she finds a working phone. However, it turns out to be locked, and she can't make any calls. She notices that water is seeping through the bullet holes and starts searching the cargo. In one of the boxes, she finds clothes, which is very timely since Mia is wet and cold. She changes into the dry clothes and continues to inspect the cargo. She finds headphones and alcohol, which won't help her seal the holes, but finally Mia finds some tape and uses it to try to stop the water from entering the container. Soon, Mia finds her notebook with photos of her daughter, and then hears desperate cries from outside. Peering out, she sees a green van nearby, with her husband inside. She screams, but she can't do anything to help those who are drowning. Mia swaps SIM cards and tries to call Nico again while watching the container sinks into the water. And then the call goes through, but the voicemail informs her that Nico can't talk. She keeps replaying the short message, realizing that her husband is no longer alive. She prepares a knife, hoping to end her torment. But then her child moves for the first time in the last 2 days, and she puts the knife away. Mia lays down to sleep. But the container starts making strange sounds, and when she wakes up, she sees that water is all around her, and she is drowning. She screams in terror and suddenly wakes up for real. There is indeed a lot of water in the container, but the level is not critical. Mia opens another crate and finds plastic packaging boxes in it. Although initially this discovery only infuriates her, she soon realizes that they can be used to create patches for the bullet holes. Using the found pipes, she pumps the water out from inside and seals the holes. Mia constantly tries to contact someone, but there is no network signal. She conducts an inventory of her belongings when suddenly a phone call comes through. On the other end of the line is her husband's voice, informing her that the driver has left them outside the city, and now he will have to catch up with her. Mia shares her horrifying situation, and he reassures her. He will come up with a plan. Mia eats the remnants of her food and stares out at the ocean for a long time, hoping for rescue. But in the evening, another storm begins, and with it come labor pains. Mia struggles in the water-flooded container, calling out to her husband, but there is no one to help her. Eventually, she gives birth to a baby girl who isn't breathing. Mia prays for a miracle, and the child lets out her first cry. The woman places the placenta in a plastic container and creates diapers from the clothing she has found. However, the baby refuses to eat and cries incessantly. Then, Mia remembers seeing a drill among the belongings and attempts to drill a hole in the ceiling. But girl keeps crying, and the stress gets to Mia. She shouts at the baby, but quickly apologizes for it. In the evening, the baby finally latches onto her breast and, after feeding, falls asleep, giving Mia a moment of respite for eating. The next morning, Mia continues her work on drilling a hole in the ceiling, and when she is almost finished, the drill's battery dies. Disheartened, she tries to turn on her phone again, but it refuses to work. Mia attempts to make the hole in the ceiling again and again, but it's all in vain. Inside the container, it is unbearably hot and there is no air to breathe, so Mia cools herself with seawater, periodically climbing to the holes in the ceiling to inhale the sea air. Her situation is further complicated by the fact that, in her attempt to break through to the air, Mia injures her hands. One night, Mia hears strange sounds coming from outside, and her container starts swaying dangerously. She realizes that her makeshift vessel has attracted the interest of whales, and they are trying to play with this unfamiliar object. The baby starts crying, and Mia, holding her child, knocks on the walls in hopes of scaring away the sea creatures. When that happens, she sighs in relief. The 6th day of her captivity arrives. Mia has almost completely drilled the distance between the holes in the ceiling when her knife breaks. Water is running out as well, and Mia tries to collect condensation drops on the container's ceiling, but there are very few of them. Eventually, Mia loses her strength. In a delirium, her older daughter, Uma, comes to her, pleading for her to leave this place. The girl accuses her mother of letting her be taken away, as she just wanted to play outside. Uma leaves while her mother begs for forgiveness. And right after, Mia feels her husband's touch, covering her and telling her that it wasn't her fault. The woman regains consciousness as fresh rainwater pours through the holes onto her. Mia arranges some boxes to collect the water. Suddenly, she discovers the last can of canned food. After replenishing her strength, she promises her daughter that she will get them out of here and resumes her efforts to escape. Finally, she manages to bend a piece of metal and sees the sky. Mia hysterically laughs and then climbs to the surface to survey the sea. She then takes her daughter outside to show her the sun. After changing her daughter's clothes, Mia throws the diaper into the water and unexpectedly spots a fish there. She makes an improvised fishing hook from wire and tries to catch at least one. However, her attempts are unsuccessful. One day, she sees an airplane in the sky and tries to signal it with a shard of a mirror, but ends up injuring her leg on the sharp edge of the hatch. Mia treats the wound with the found alcohol and stitches it up, occasionally losing consciousness. During the night, Mia spends her time weaving nets from wires, as she has a whole box of headphones. Eventually, she catches a fish and eats it raw. Meanwhile, the water level inside the container continues to rise, and although Mia periodically pumps out the water, her makeshift vessel is sinking deeper into the ocean. The 12th day of her voyage arrives. Mia shows her daughter photos depicting herself at work, at school, and her father, Nico, the owner of a small shop that had to close due to food shortages. But people always came to him because he always found a way, and now he will definitely find them. There's also a photo of Noah's grandmother, whose name Mia wants to give to the little girl because it means a long life, and it's also the feminine form of Noah, who sailed for a long time and managed to reach land. Then there's a photo of her sister Uma, who wanted to become a pilot, but when the regime came to power, Mia and Uma had to stay at home. The girl really wanted to go outside, and one day her mom took her out against her better judgment. The military noticed the child and took her away. While narrating all this to her daughter, Mia notices that the girl is not feeling well. Using a lamp made from a thermos and alcohol, she tries to warm the little one, wrapping her in a sweatshirt. She sings to her sleeping child, and then falls asleep herself, while her ship continues to drift somewhere. Later, the water reaches the critical level Mia determined. She emerges on the surface, and her phone starts ringing. Nico's voice comes through the receiver, saying that he won't be able to reach her, and she'll have to save herself. He's wounded and hiding in a container. He has fought hard to survive, but his loss of blood is significant, and he realizes that his time is running out. He wants to say goodbye to his beloved wife and their newborn daughter. Mia promises that she will fight and hands the phone to her daughter so her father can talk to her. Mia confesses her love for her husband as the phone battery dies and his voice fades away. The woman lies on top, gazes at the stars, and suddenly remembers that she still has the Snickers bar her husband gave her in her pocket. Day 26 at sea. The container is slowly but surely filling with water, and there comes a moment when Mia has to climb to the top and stay there with her daughter. She constructs a raft from boxes and debris when a seagull lands on the container, bringing hope of rescue. Mia retrieves everything she can from the sinking container while the makeshift raft, with her daughter on it, is washed into the ocean, and Mia's leg gets tangled in the ropes. The container sinks as Mia struggles to free herself. She manages to do so at the very last moment. But resurfacing, she doesn't see the raft and cries out in despair. Finally, she hears her daughter's cry and swims toward it. Whales swim around, but they do not harm the humans. Morning arrives. Mia regains consciousness, asks her baby to bear with her, and begins to throw away the fish she had previously caught. She thanks Noah for saving her life. She did everything she could, and then she hears seagulls screaming overhead. At this time, a fishing boat is casting nets in the area. A fisherman and his family notice the birds circling something in the water, head towards it, and find the raft with the child. They pull it on board and see a rope attached to a crate. Pulling on it, they discover a woman tied to it. They lift Mia on board and perform CPR, bringing her back to life. And just when it seems that all their efforts are in vain, Mia starts to breathe. She regains consciousness and immediately asks about her daughter. They hand her the baby while the fisherman calls for an ambulance to the nearby port, which is supposed to arrive in 20 minutes. The fisherwoman reassures Mia that they are safe, as Ireland is close by. This story touches upon a significant and distressing contemporary issue: refugees. People flee their homes when it becomes impossible to live there anymore, but so many of them perish before reaching safe shores.